duck.
Found a duck?
The open
Cool!
water. But the ball's that way, so...
Well, there's boards everywhere, to be honest.
Oh, right, yeah.
When I first started using it, I was tripping over logs and walking into trees and stuff, just looking for pictures of ducks. But once you get used to it, you can probably just refer to it more likely, like pick it up and have a quick look around, and then continue looking at pretty birds and stuff like that, rather than just ignoring them all.
Work very much like you get used to websites working with homepage, landing pages, and then more detail behind them. People are very used to it, I think.
But to me, if it took you in one deeper or said, oh, there's something there that you can't see and this is what it is, then that would really give you some value.
And you can archive images as well of sort of old scenes of people reed cutting and, you know, those boots, somebody wearing them in the past or so, I don't know, things like that.
I think the idea of looking inside the distant buildings, you know, looking at the machinery of the wind pump is very interesting because that is allowing us to do something which you genuinely can't do. I mean, we're doing one thing already, which is to label it in a way at distance, which is pretty difficult to do, and tell you its name and a little of its history, but also to be able to kind of approach it a bit and get a deeper interpretation. That's very interesting. So surface labelling is great, and historical information is useful, but being able to see the stuff that you can't see, as well as labelling the things you can.
Yeah, so that's how you wait time. Phones are pretty good. You know, they're well used to being used in all sorts of circumstances, because otherwise they wouldn't be market ready, really. Devices like these, I mean, it's not going to take any harm from a light dusting of rain.
No.
If I dropped it in the marsh, it probably wouldn't come back alive very quickly, I don't think. I've yet to see a ruggedized ebook reader. Plenty of ruggedized laptops, GPS devices. We did quite a lot of experimentation with some off-the-shelf GPS, particularly from Garmin, which have some nice functions about sort of showing images when you're near a point of interest. But as Simon said, the problem with those is that they really are designed for hikers, and they've got a lot of functionality about way tracking and stuff, which Garmin won't let us disable.
Things might be.
Okay, so these are the different points we're
Yes,
going
they
to.
are.
Yeah.
Yep.
Make sure my eyesight isn't very good, but I can just about see 3, 4. Yeah, I can see it. Yeah. My glasses are a bit steamed
Beamed up.
Yeah.
That's the other interesting thing, in that the device can get between you and what you're looking at, and you're divorcing yourself from the situation. It's a less immediate memory that you've got of it than you would have if you were actually, with no camera, just seeing something.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me that's an overriding concern in this sort of interpretation is how much it kind of takes you away from an immediate contact with what you came to see in the first place.
So you don't press on the screen?
No, it's not touchscreen.
Okay, right, okay.
So all of us got it. Oh, we're just...
Yeah.
Because we're now just so used to touchscreens.
Yeah.
These haven't quite got there yet.
So this is a Kindle?
This is a Kindle, yep. I think you went left or right, which moves you back forward a chapter, I think. Try that again.
But as I understood it, when you get through to that final screen and you get your information, it is a bit limited in how much you can actually have on there. That was black and white, there wasn't much text, and you said that was because you couldn't up and download that much that quickly.
That's a limitation which we imposed at this stage in the project for a couple of reasons. One to help us keep life straightforward, but also because we're very aware that coverage out here is quite restricted, and so we have to be careful about what we try and get mobile phones to download, because if we put in big colour images, then you'd be waiting there for 5 minutes waiting for it to arrive, which is probably even more frustrating.
Even with connectivity issues, even if there was an option to say download video, it doesn't have to happen automatically and slow down your connection. If it's a choice and you make, if you can flag it up and say, I mean, all it takes is an internet link to something else, because all these phones are web enabled.
Sure.
Yeah. That's why you take a smartphone to do something like this, is because it has the ability to do all the multimedia.
And you're always going to have a limited demographic for this sort of thing, because, you know, my mum sent her first email yesterday. She's not going to be getting an iPhone anytime soon.
I'd see that as a supplement rather than necessarily a complete replacement. Or some people, it's horses for courses, some people like to buy a little booklet and you know, you take it home and you've got nice pictures and it tells you about which signs you're looking at. But other people, and probably the younger market, who would probably want to go around and do it in this way. But I think it's horses for courses. I don't think it should be one or the other.
It's certainly useful in that it would do away with the need for lots of intrusive signage and things.
I think the interaction, the fact that it's responsive to your inquiry, is very different to being presented a narrative.
I think it's critical not to think that you can bolt one set of information through to different media too easily. I know it's tempting. When things are well done, it's because they're designed, it's built on the content. So sometimes when you're in a different media, the content will be different and it will work better if it's different, you know. I think that's an important thing to be wary of.
The seasonality of the landscape is often a problem. So when you're talking about species, particularly plants or insects, which you might only see in relatively narrow windows during the year, then you automatically introduce something which is irrelevant, maybe of 10 months per year. And it's quite difficult in terms of that portraying that type of information. And I think that's always going to be a challenge. But when we're trying to interpret the countryside.
You've got the potential for doing that through this technology that you haven't got through science, because you just couldn't.
Yeah, it is possible to actually set up something which would dynamically serve a point of interest based upon where you were, what date it was and what time of day it was.
I think that would add an awful lot more. I think that's where you could potentially use the technology to take you way beyond what, say, an ordinary trail leaflet can do, which is obviously totally fixed in time. So something where if you're stood in the middle of one of the wet meadows down there, which is surrounded by wildflowers, and it then can be much more informative in terms of you could bring up a list of the wildflowers that you're going to see and actually use it to go around and say, right, we've got a picture of ragged robin in front of you, you can actually go and find it and see it in the flesh. So it becomes much more of a learning tool rather than...
It'd be good if that sort of thing came up at the start as well, once you arrive on site, where if it was seasonality and where those birds might be on the site or where those flowers might be on the site at the start.
Also these sites, you're pretty much guaranteed to hear Chetty's warblers or see particular plants or see particular species of dragonfly at the right time of year. So I think
you can be that specific.
Yeah.
You just got to choose. So you could be presented a list of things that they could show you, and you could select one thing off of it, and that would show you whatever the bird or insects is you're looking for, and the locations which were relevant to them would show up and the others wouldn't. And then it would get rid of the other points that I didn't want to know about and show me that the places I want to be heading for are these ones.
It presents a lot of opportunities because the information is being downloaded real time to give people real time information about the site. So you can potentially put in there things that you can see today, things that have been seen today, if you don't have to upload it that quickly. But also, having available, depending on the season that it is, the time of year, maybe even the time of day, information that's presented relevant to where people are at that time and at that season.
Well, because you've got the capacity of seeing what's already there, I think if you could see what's there and then see the history behind the thing you're looking at, that would give it another dimension. Or see into the future if there's future plans for changing certain buildings on the site you're at. Seeing the functionality of how it used to work, how they would have, how the people would have worked when it was back in its heyday, brings another dimension to what you're looking at.
certainly see the potential in this technology. I think at the moment it's not completely realised in that there's some little way to go, but that said, these devices are only going to get better, and also more people are going to own them as well, which is important.
I can see a really strong application for it for research into users and what they do on a site. At the moment it's impossible to know what people are getting, what they're doing, how it's affecting their action when you put interpretation out there. And I can see that it would be a wonderful way to chart and track people as they use the site, what they do and what effect the interpretation has on them, because you could change it and watch what it causes them to do along the way. And that's a completely new, as far as I know, way of actually interacting and marking what visitors are doing.